Hi, this is Moses Jacobs for DeBarra Spoken Word. It's the 15th of June 2021, and I'm speaking to, and I hope I say this right, Massimo Elijah from
Perfect.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And of course, we've never met. We've met on Zoom, and Massimo has been to some of our sessions, and we've invited him for another session. And he's a really good poet, and I know very, very little about him. I know that he has a number of names. Massimo is your first name, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Massimo is my first name, and my name is Massimo Elijah Pryor Lavelle.
Okay. So you've got two
Yeah.
first names and two last names, or is Pryor also a first name?
Well, Pryor is a last name. It's relatively common in the U.S. I guess it's like an English name.
Yeah.
And like Richard Pryor
Of
is
course.
a very famous comedian.
Yes.
So
yeah, I've heard the name before. And also Lavelle is, I've heard the name in Ireland, and I know people who are called that. So
yes.
You say you have some Irish genes in you?
I do. I'm trying to remember exactly where, but I know that the name Lavelle, the etymology is one who is fond of travel, is apparently what it means. So that makes people think we might have been gypsies or something like that.
Okay.
But, but yeah, we're from a certain part of Ireland.
Okay.
On my mother's side.
Okay.
Her father's side.
Okay. But there's no story. I mean, it's too long ago to really have to know what actually happened and when they left Ireland and went to the States, for example.
I think it actually wasn't too long ago, because it would have been during I guess a potato famine.
Okay.
Where a lot of Irish immigrants came to the US.
Okay.
Which I think is sometime in the 1800s. So
1845, roughly.
Yeah.
Around there.
Yeah. So that's, so in comparison, that's really not a long time ago.
No. It depends what you compare it to.
right.
But that story or that knowledge is still in your family. That is
yes. We had to find out exactly where we were from.
Okay.
And also, my mother's side isn't completely Irish either. It's mixed with Italian, or more specifically Tyrolean, which I guess is in the Alps between Austria and Germany.
Yeah,
and that's where Massimo comes from.
Okay, it's an Italian name.
Yeah.
So where in Ireland did your forebears come from?
It's a good question. I can't remember. It is known. I just forgot.
Okay.
It's like a lake, a town named after a lake.
Okay.
Where they come from.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And are you born and bred in Philadelphia?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're a poet. What else? Do you make a living as a poet, or is it like your hobby?
No. I mean, no, I don't make a living as a poet. I'm actually not employed. So, but poetry it's funny. I got into poetry because I used to love hip hop.
Okay.
But something about the flow, and especially here in the United States, it's an art form. Hip hop is a very the music is usually very specific to a certain narrative and a certain style. And I found that as much as I loved it, there's kind of more things I wanted to say, or different approaches I wanted to take, that didn't always work in the constraints of the kind of music that was popular, or that you heard a lot. And a friend of mine encouraged me to do spoken word, because he gave me an invitation to the slam poetry stuff that was going on, which I wasn't really interested in too much. But then I went, and I would share a cappella verses that I usually wrote to music. And I liked it because instead of racing to a beat, you could slow down and make every point and focus on what you were saying instead of having to compete with the rhythm. So that's how the poetry started.
Hip hop is often like a battle, isn't it? It's like, you know, two guys, especially if you do it freestyle, I think, two guys against each other,
Yeah.
you know, trying to insult each other as much as possible, and their mothers. Or
Well, you know, and that's one form. That's one
okay.
form of like battle rapping.
Okay.
And then you also have ciphers where, you know, people will stand in a circle and kind of bounce off each other's style. So it's less
combative.
less competitive. But and then you have, you know, just an MC on a beat who will tell a story or, you know, go off on interesting topics. So it is pretty free as an art form, but I just found that I found more freedom in spoken word because you can talk right to people and the focus is all on what you're saying and you can speak it more naturally. And I was surprised how much I loved it. So.
And do you always know what you want to say?
Do you mean when it's time for a performance or when I'm inspired to write?
When it's time for a performance, because I've heard you come up with a rhyming and really accomplished poem within the space of maybe 10 minutes or something like that. Or I remember in one of our recent sessions that, wow, it looked as if you had been working on it for days, but it just came out like that. So I mean, under those circumstances, do you know what you want to say?
You know, if I ever have a performance coming up, I try to make it a point to have something ready in the chamber, you know. Okay. But one of my favorite things to do is actually freestyle, and you know, I'm a little bit too nervous to do it in public a lot, but it is a beautiful thing, and by freestyle I mean improvise off the top, the poetry, and it's beautiful because it's amazing what comes out of you that you don't expect when you don't have that delayed time from the actual inspiration. So like whatever moves us to say something, when we write a poem, the inspiration comes, but then the rest of us is like an editor. And I like that when you freestyle, it's like you're kind of closer to just pure creating.
And the editor is not there. The editor is not there at that time.
He's there. He's just working real fast.
Okay, so if I now put you sort of, you know, to the test and said, come up with something, what would come out of you first? What would you say?
Oh, goodness gracious. I think I would look behind you and see, you know, since you decided to start this, I'd look behind you and see the sign that says that you too are a local artist. And of course, I'm a rhyme, so I use rhymes to impart this, but more than the rhyming, it's often what you actually have to share. And that's where I find inspiration, whether it be in joy or despair. And some places I don't always care to go, but I don't know. Inside here, there's more there to know. And, the depths inside us are even too much for us to plunge through without guidance. And that's really all I have to say for now. So thanks for asking. But you know, that's just a little test to, you know, small things, and it's fun because you don't even know where you're going. So you know,
so that's great. I mean, because the rhyme seems to come really naturally. Is it always with you? Is it always there? for you?
It's definitely not. It's definitely not. It's kind of it's a nice thing because you have to learn to fall on your face. And that's why I don't always do it in public, because the times where I'm most inspired is when I start and I purposefully ignore the rhymes and just say what I want to say and mess up and say awkward things. And it's like you get it out of the way. And then as soon as that's out of the way and that self-conscious mechanism is not as strong, it's really amazing what comes out. And anybody can do it, I think. Like I have a friend of mine who's not a poet at all, or not a rhymer at all. But when they start talking, after they break through that wall of self-awareness or self-consciousness, it's really amazing what it's almost like some ideas are there that they just connect themselves when you let them. And it's really beautiful. And also time is a thing. It takes more time, and you get into it. But really, I guess any art form has that capacity where if you go far enough and you trust it, and of course, a little bit of foundation of practice and craft and all that. But if you go far enough in it, it becomes a journey of exploration that you really couldn't find any other way. So
yeah. And where do you think inspiration comes from? Is it something you can just tap into always? Is it something inside yourself, like a collective unconscious, subconscious, or is it from outside yourself?
Oh man. I mean, for me, I count myself lucky because I have actually a very strict form that I stick to, which is I don't use proper nouns like names, places. Like I barely use anything that can pin me down to a place and time. And I don't use, I try not to, there's a certain level of negativity I don't kind of engage with. And I also make everything I say relevant to any human being. No divisions based on race or sex or, location or anything like that. So for me, that becomes inspirational because it's like I already have a pathway that I can channel my creative energy into. So that becomes fun for me. I think it would be a lot harder for me to be inspired if I just tried to talk about something without knowing a way to talk about it. So when you talk about inspiration, I think it's funny. I think one of the biggest ways to find inspiration is actually not having so many options. I think it's hard to be inspired sometimes because it's like you could pick anything. What do you want to talk about? Life, death, springtime, love, your pet, something existential. It's like at any moment we could talk about a billion things, but when you narrow it down, I think that makes inspiration flow much more easily because you're not swamped with options.
Thank you. That's profound. I want to ask you two more questions because I promised I wouldn't make it too long.
Okay. I'm fine. You can go as long as you want. But I'm very honored to be here, Mose. Thank you.
Same, likewise. Truly, you strike me as a very private person. You don't really want to put your personality out there. It's something else. What you say, we get more, we connect with your inner person or something like that. Is there anything you want us to know apart from your four names about you as a person, your life, or
maybe I would, but it's kind of like, I'd have to write a novel. So, like I think I think everybody wants to share themselves, but they know that if they give you just like one tiny piece of a whole, then, they don't want that piece for you to think it represents the whole. So they're like, okay, I'll save it for waiting for somebody to ask them for the whole thing.
Well, I mean, there is the honor tradition of the poets or the writer's bio, like Massimo Elijah is that kind of stuff, like 2 paragraphs about yourself. Do you have that as a poet?
Yeah. But mine has a lot to do with my city. Philly is a really special place to me. So that's one thing.
In what way?
I grew up here, and it's really, the arts are really a very special thing here, and they're always pushing the envelope with new things and interesting things, and also just a culture of people who live and breathe what they're doing. Like when I was a kid, I used to go and see break dancers perform on the same stage as ballerinas, and street artists, and theater, where they would talk about stuff that was actually going on in the city, and a really kind of like they didn't hold back. I think that, so a big part of why I love the arts has to do with where I come from, and how kind of what's the word? Unfettered, unrestricted, like just,
Free.
Yeah, free. Perfect. Free. So,
Okay.
yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, you also strike me as somebody who knows their purpose in a way. Is that correct?
Yes. And you know what? It's not poetry.
So what is it? What is it?
You know what it is? It's to be myself.
Okay.
And it's funny. It's like everybody's like, well, you don't have a choice, do you? And I was like, I know I don't. But the purpose is to make that choice, because it's the only one that's correct. That's why it's the only one I can make.
So no masks.
No masks?
No masks.
Oh, no masks. I thought
Yeah.
you said no more or no more.
No.
No masks. I didn't say no masks. Oscar Wilde said, give a man a mask and he will tell you the truth.
Okay.
So they're good sometimes too.
That's a good way to end. And you're going to give us some poetry on the July 14th.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and Rose, you're really wonderful. You're very thoughtful, even outside of the poetry. So thank you for always showing me so much warmth and love.
Well,
yeah.
Pleasure is all ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you.